It has been forever since I've put a video up on my channel, at least a couple of weeks, and I really wanted to get one filmed for you guys today. Unfortunately, I got sick earlier this week, and when I'm sick, the last thing I feel like doing is makeup. So instead, we're gonna do a cooking video. And when I'm sick, I really like soup, so today we are going to be making a vegan dumpling soup. I hope you guys enjoy this little shift in content, and I hope to be making more makeup videos very, very soon. Enjoy! So first we are going to make some dumplings for this soup. Now this recipe comes from Lauren Toyota, and she has a blog called Hot for Food where she makes some really amazing vegan recipes. And if you're ever interested, not only in vegan food, but just food that tastes really good, give her a shot. Check out her blog. It's hotforfood.com. So we are going to be making the dumplings for this soup first. And I have a dumpling addiction, so I'm going to be making double what the recipe calls for. I will give you guys what the recipe calls for and then tell you what I'm using. So the recipe calls for 1 cup of flour, but I'm going to do 2. Then we need 1 teaspoon of baking powder, but since I'm doubling the recipe, I'm going to use 2. The recipe calls for half a teaspoon of sea salt, but I'll be using a full teaspoon. Instead of a 1/4 teaspoon of dried oregano, I'm going to be using a half. Instead of a 1/4 teaspoon of dried basil, I'll be using, again, a half teaspoon. Then I'm going to whisk all those dried ingredients together. I'll make a little well in the center. And to that well, I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of vegetable oil instead of 2. And then to that, I'm going to add 1 cup of warm water, but the recipe only calls for a half cup. I'm going to mix that all together until it forms a sticky dough. And then I'll put a clean tea towel over the top, and I'm going to set it aside so that the dough can rest. Heat up a little oil and then saute the onions and the carrot. This recipe also calls for celery, but unfortunately I don't have any celery right now, and since I'm sick, you best believe I'm not going out anywhere to get anything that I don't already have. So today we'll be making this soup without the celery and without the kale, which is unfortunate because I think the kale really adds something to the soup, but we'll have to throw that in there next time. This is 1 cup of onion and 1 cup of carrots. We'll let this saute over medium heat for about 4 to 5 minutes, and then we will start adding some more spices. Next, we're going to add in some of the remaining spices. I'm going to add in a teaspoon of dried dill, a half a teaspoon of dried thyme, a teaspoon of dried sage, and about a teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. At this time, I'm also going to add in some minced garlic. Now the recipe calls for 2 cloves of garlic, but when using minced garlic, I rarely measure, so I'm just going to give it a healthy spoonful. We'll let that cook for just a second to get nice and aromatic. Next, we're going to add our potatoes. Got 2 cups of diced peeled potatoes. And we're going to let these cook over medium-low heat for about 2 minutes. The recipe calls for 6 cups of hot water and 3 vegan chicken-flavored bouillon cubes. Instead of that, I use this Better Than Bouillon seasoned vegetable base. This is vegan, and I can find it at Target, Walmart has it, as well as a lot of specialty health food stores. And because I made 2 batches of dumplings, I'm actually putting in 2 extra cups of vegetable stock. We'll turn this back up to high to bring it to a boil, and then we'll cook it for about 8 minutes until the potatoes are tender. time to add the dumplings. So I took the tea towel off and this is what we have for our dumpling mixture. I'm going to dip the spoon in the hot stock and it's going to help the dumplings slide off a little easier. So I'm going to take a small spoonful of dumpling and drop it in the water. And then do that about 100 more times. Alright, the dumplings are in. I'm going to set a timer for about 8 minutes to let these little guys cook. And in the last 2 minutes of cooking, I'm going to add some frozen peas. With a few minutes left for cooking the dumplings, I'm going to add in about half a cup of frozen peas. Maybe a little more. My kids really like peas. At this point in time, you would also add in the kale that's in the recipe, but unfortunately, like I said, don't have any kale and I'm not feeling well, so I'm definitely not going to get any, but I am going to add in a little bit of dried parsley. We'll stir that all up and let it cook for the remaining 2 minutes. Alright, it looks like my vegan dumpling soup is done. One of my absolute favorite things about this soup is that the dumplings added to the vegetable stock make almost like kind of a gravy. It's the absolute best comfort food for when you're not feeling well. We're going to let this cool for a few seconds and then put it in a bowl. Thank you guys again so much for joining me, and like I said, I'm hoping next week can get kind of back to normal. I hope we all feel back to normal. Today we're just going to have dinner and then pretty much call it a night. So I hope you guys have a great week, and I will see you next time. Bye!